Make tracking simple again. On the back of my fantastic video I made about why tracking is a good idea, and a bid to try and stop the fear mongering around the thought of tracking, I've thrown another amazing video together, which will be about tracking only 4 things to change your life, which will be the title of this video now. It's to give you some help on simple things to track to becoming an incredibly healthy person. And when I say healthy, that's for you to decide your own definition of it. But I will tick a few health markers we call benchmarks. After this, you'll be a person who is ready to pump anything in sight. Or be pumped, consensually of course, and hopefully the same species of animal as you as well. There's some fucking weirdos out there. So it's based around tracking 4 key areas: steps, food, weight, and exercise. After you have these 4 things tracked and maintained, you may be able to address any damage you may feel you've created to get back on track. Nailing this should at least help you get your weight under control at the very least, and allow you to decide what you then want to do with it. Even if you don't want to change your weight, these 4 things are still good indicators on how your day has went, i.e. if you have been a lazy fucker or not. Also, you'll then hopefully come to realise that to change the way you look in whatever way you want, you'll need to address at least one of these 4 things, or all of them. Then after that, you can get into the minutiae details of whether you should be eating donkey dick for breakfast like some of these absolute wallopers do online. On a slightly more serious note, you can then decide what kind of food you feel better eating, or your preferred method of dieting, or your choices in food, if you then choose to take that next step. But people do ask, James, why are you so helpful and handsome? I say thank you, first of all, but I'm just a giver. And it's all about having and giving and sharing and receiving. If we were out one night and our absolute riveting conversation turns to why you can't lose weight after boring everyone else to death in the bar and discussing why Scotland will never win a major tournament, I could probably gauge where you're going wrong with your goals if you weren't achieving them, or what you need to address by giving me information on these 4 things. Tracking these 4 things, even loosely, and monitoring them could literally change your life, because you'd be about 80% the way there. I've got nothing to back those numbers up, it's just a guess. But it is a major part of the overall picture though. And when I say track, I would track these things very loosely over the course of the week. And that may sound absolutely daunting and like I'm a fucking loser, but I've just made a fantastic viral video explaining why you should track, with around 28 views I'm sure. And that is if you want to see quick changes in your life. So why these 4 things? They cover a wide range of the energy in versus energy out equation in terms of how active you've been and how you've eaten and how your body has responded to it. And these 4 things will tell you all you need to know on how you've done for that day, or a large chunk of it. Eat more than you've burned, exercised, you'll gain weight. Eat less than you've burned or exercised, you'll lose weight. If your eating matches your exercise, you'll maintain. Before we carry on, also, to put your mind at ease, this isn't something you'll have to do for the rest of your life. It'll hopefully become something you then just glance at. You look at the clock on your phone, or you check your bank balance and go, holy shit, I need to sort that out. The aim is you'll get to a point where you'll just glance at these and go, I've been a lazy fucker today, or I've overate today and I've not done my cardio, or my weight has ballooned since yesterday. And there may be reasons why you've overate, or your weight has ballooned, or you've done fuck all, but as long as you can justify it and address it, you'll be doing a lot better than most. Like you enjoyed a meal out with your family, or you ate a ton of carbs the night before and retained water. You had a bunch of fluids before you went to bed, or you were ill so you didn't move from your bed. You'll basically start being able to answer why these aren't moving in the direction that you want, rather than people saying, I'm broken, I can't lose weight. Like many of these time wasters online who diet every day and can't lose weight. Yet they don't take into account the 500 calorie coffee that they had at lunch every day. So we'll go through the 4 of them in detail and what they are and why to track them. So steps, self-explanatory, measure the steps you do on a daily basis. Technology is that amazing now, you'll likely have a stepometer on your phone or on your watch, which means it's one of the most simplest things you can track with 0 effort. People massively underestimate how much walking helps maintain a healthy lifestyle and can burn calories. It's many people's preferred option as a form of cardio rather than running or cycling. You really don't have to do much to get a decent amount of steps in. 6,000 steps will take you about an hour. You could go for a walk with your mate and chat shit the whole time, or listen to a podcast or book, or you could do some chores DIY around the house to help get the step count up without even noticing it. It's recommended you get around 10,000 steps or so a day, around that number, if you're nowhere near hitting that, just increase your current average by 1,000 a week until you get to a decent level. So why should you track these? If you think about it like this, if I look down on my watch and I've done 1,500 steps, I know I've been a lazy fucker that day. That doesn't happen that often, and if it does, something dreadful has happened. So if I looked at your step count and seen it's 1,500, you have been a lazy fucker, my friend, watching Netflix and eating shit all day most likely. You basically get a gauge on how active you've been that day outside of exercise as the days and weeks go on. You basically create your own baseline. You may remember this is called your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or your NEAT. I mentioned it in another video I did before about energy. Your next one is your weight. It simply tells you what your body weight is. It's not the be all and end all of progress, but it does help with giving you an indication if you're looking after your weight. The other 3 that we're going to talk about basically dictates this. On average, weigh yourself 3 or 4 times a week minimum for best results to achieve a reliable average. Depending on your goals depends on how you address your weight. If it's going up, we need to adjust things to bring it back down. If it's going down, we need to adjust things to bring it back up. If it's maintaining, great. Obviously depending on your goal. And FYI, this is all there is to changing your weight. Calories in versus calories out. I did another video on an absolute whopper who said you can eat 3 times more calories than your maintenance and lose weight.
This is why most people who transition over to a carnivore approach can eat 2 to sometimes 3 times the amount of calories and still lose life-changing weight, burn fat, and feel amazing doing it. Funny that.
My kid gives out better nutrition advice than this fanny. This one is exercise. I think it's important to take note of what exercise you do, regardless of what type it is. So if it's running, your lap time, your weight, reps, sets, intensity, duration, I don't give a fuck. It makes no sense to go to the gym and not take a note of what you've been doing in a bid to get better in some way. I'm yet to meet someone who says, I go to the gym to achieve the same time I run on the treadmill every week, and boast about it. If I ever met that person, he'd likely be the soggiest wet wipe on this planet. A real Buzz Killington. If you go to the gym and don't track what you're doing there, you could definitely be a serial killer. The reason why we track these things is so we know you're getting better, and we know you're getting stronger and faster, etc. Last one is food. Measure what you're eating. As I said in the last video, this doesn't mean you meticulously measure every little thing that goes in your mouth. A rough measure would be enough for most whilst aiming for ballpark figures or calories. Roughly measuring is better than what most people are doing these days. Otherwise we wouldn't be all rolling about as the fattest nation that's ever lived, getting turned away from log flumes and roller coasters for being too fat. For example, knowing you can eat 2,500 calories and then deciding to split that into 4 big meals and 2 snacks is good enough for most. Then over the course of the next few days, your weight that we spoke about earlier will react based on if you're eating too much or too little. And then we adjust your meticulousness to suit, with focusing on protein, etc. But for most people, tracking roughly would be enough. Leave the real die-hard measuring for people doing photo shoots and competing in performance athletes, which you can obviously become if you want. This is fucking easy, isn't it? Food is probably the hardest of the 4 to track, as it can be tedious and arguably time consuming, but the more you do it, the more you get better at it. And you can make it easier for yourself by making recipes and having square go-to meals, for example. This is probably the one you can lie about the most and think you're being clever. It's also most definitely the one people do lie about. Whether they know or not, I'm not sure. You know, they could skip tracking snacks and drinks purposely or accidentally. The thing is, MyFitnessPal and all the other food apps are only a good diary if you're honest with it. But your mouth is an even better food diary whether you lie or not. That fucker does not lie. You can forget to add that 700 calorie coffee to your food diary, but your mouth won't forget it. The thing about these 4 things combined is that they can't really lie. So if you're honest with them, the results they give you will be honest also. Nobody's ever got good results by lying, so don't be a fanny. Ultimately, these 4 things can tell you where you're going wrong and what you need to address as they interact with each other. For example, your food might be on point, but you may not have done your usual amount of steps. You might have done enough steps, but you've not ate the right amount of foods. Your weight might be up, but you're adamant you've stuck to your food, your cardio and exercise, so you just have to trust the process and wait it out. You may have nailed all your goals this week, but not lost or gained any weight for the past few weeks. So you then need to change things up, like more or less food or more or less cardio. This may sound like a lot of work, but the more you do it, the more you just skim it over and go, not where I need to be. I need to ramp this up. Or now I'm where I want to be. I can ease off on everything and take your foot off the gas. I would be encouraging tracking like this if we weren't the size that we are. I'm certain there's a study out there that concluded on average, people are eating an excess of 500 calories a day, which doesn't sound like much, but when you consider there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, that's 1 pound of fat per week. That is absolutely nuts. And it's only going to get worse, isn't it? That doesn't mean everyone is eating like that, and everyone is going to gain 1 pound of fat a week. But the chances are everyone's weight is likely going up rather than down without keeping an eye on it. I've always said that tracking is not for everyone, and nor should it be. People will get results without it, but if you want to get a handle on your weight as soon as possible and change it quickly, rather than it potentially being a long, drawn-out process, I strongly urge you to consider it. Because if you're here listening to this, chances are you've not succeeded in the past. Otherwise, why else would you be here, unless you're here for the banter? I also think tracking these 4 things is hardly difficult. 3 of them take less than 10 seconds to record, if that. Steps on your phone, exercise a pen and paper, and weight you just stand on scales and take a note. Some scales even zap it to your phone now. Food is the time consuming one, but it's less than 10 minutes of your day. Think of all the time you're on your phone in a day. Think you can spare 10 minutes rather than watching this shite on your phone? What you monitor can then be managed. It's no coincidence that people who don't monitor properly struggle to get consistent results and maintain them. Tracking your food has a massive cloud over its head, like you're neurotic or complicating things, when it's one of the best things you can do in an obesogenic environment. That's us done with the video. See you in the next one.